But yeah, if the armored car will certainly help you establish early game dominance, because there's not a lot that can touch it other than dedicated anti-tank stuff or people with AT grenades, which you don't want to get too close to. So I buy a mortar because I feel like I want to be more leisurely in my assaults, give myself some breathing room, and almost immediately I start shelling the AT gun. This is a very nice map for a mortar. There's a lot of elevation changes, so you can put your mortar behind a hill, and you also see me moving forward with my infantry. Always moving forward with my infantry. Always a fantastic idea. Just get your infantry as far into your opponent's grill as you possibly can. Those watching the mini-map will note that the rightmost 2 points are both in enemy hands, so we're going to blame my ally for that, because, yeah, that's his fault. The middle is not entirely his fault, although I am also sending people to the middle, so it's partially his fault, perhaps, for not helping as much as I am. I'm also retasking my mortar there, because that is just an ugly place to fight in. I figure shells dropping from the ground, or dropping from the sky, will help things out. And I also buy an AT gun, because I figure now that I have a mortar, and I have the leftmost point, things are looking really nice. I'm just going to lock down the leftmost point and focus on the middle, trying to help my ally. And the AT gun is essential to locking down a point, because if a vehicle shows up right out of nowhere, you really don't want to have to waste the time to micro one of your men in behind it from a bush and getting it with an AT grenade, which is not even a sure thing, obviously. Like, smart people aren't even going to drive by bushes or anything, or they're going to keep moving too fast before you can even hit them with an AT grenade, much as I am talking too fast for you to even understand anything I am saying. But in any case, I bought an AT gun because that helps you lock down a position, especially before they know the AT gun is there. I mean, they're going to be driving around like wild if they try and break through their lines, break through your lines anyways, but it's likely they won't be able to avoid the AT gun if they don't know where it is. So now we see on the left a vehicle. No, we don't. We see a mortar. So he bought a counter mortar, but he has made the rookie mistake of 1, letting it get spotted by me while my mortar is set up, and 2, putting it in a pretty crummy position. Just sticks it like in the middle of nowhere and puts some sandbags around it. So unfortunately I lose Mr. Bazooka Man, but I can still shell him. He's not really behind a hill or anything. He has no special protection other than the sandbags, although the sandbags are fantastic protection against enemy mortars you will find, so I set up my own sandbags. If you saw me do that little wizardry in the menu, it will basically see that hit I just got on him. That didn't do anything. The second hit, of course, killed everybody, but the first hit didn't do anything because sandbags will generally buy your mortar protection from an explosive round as long as it doesn't land within the sandbags. But if it lands within the sandbags, I mean, obviously they got you sighted, or they're just lucky. So there's a guy in this building, and I've been wondering for like 10 minutes how to get him, and I realized, hey, I can just throw an AT grenade, and of course that takes out most of the building, but it does not kill the guy, and so he just shoots me. So now I figure, well, at least there's a big old fucking hole in the building, so I can come in and do this guy execution style. I tell him I gotta peek around the corner, but that's not doing it for some reason. Building combat is pretty glitchy in this game. Luckily you don't have to do it very often, so I just run in and kick the crap out of him. That was some Jackie Chan stuff right there. You'll notice it took 3 close combat hits to kill him, and I don't really know how a British person took out an American person in close combat, because as anyone who has ever been to Britain knows, they can only use their feet in combat. It's a byproduct of having played so much soccer. But you know, Men of War doesn't try to be 100% realistic, and it really ought not to. So my AT gun has not been used so far, and now that Sherman is trying to poke through my lines, peeking up on the left, and he's going to pay for it in blood. If Sherman's bled blood, which in the future when we breed biological tanks they will, but not quite yet. He's just going to pay for it in, I don't know, he's going to pay for it in steel. What's the Sherman made of? Probably steel, I'm guessing steel. Not stainless steel, though, they don't care if the Sherman's stained. So, bam! Just like that, hull crushed, and a tree just made a timber noise, that was kind of amusing. But, yeah, dude was way too cavalier with his Shermans. He's been too cavalier with his vehicles, generally. You really want to support your vehicles with infantry. The vehicles without infantry are like peanut butter without something to mix the peanut butter. The good peanut butter, not the peanut butter with partially hydrogenated oils, because you don't have to mix that. It'll stay like peanut buttery, but that's like bad for you. I'm talking about the good peanut butter where the oil and like the chunky part of the peanut butter separates, and so you have to mix it up each time. Yeah, and so vehicles are like that because they should always be accompanied by infantry, if only to scout for them or to, like, I don't know, pick up awesome stuff that drops off the vehicle, like keepsakes or something, because, like, I don't know who he's shooting at, but that's the advantage of having random people scattered in bushes. You catch your opponent doing stuff that you wouldn't otherwise do. You always want to have intelligence on what your opponent is doing, so keep them scattered around. And also keep them scattered around your vehicles. Keep your infantry scattered around your vehicles, because a vehicle without infantry is blind, and infantry without vehicles are deaf, where deaf means they don't have a giant gun to explode things. The vehicle provides the firepower, the infantry provides the target of the firepower. It's no good being able to shoot if you don't know what you're shooting. And see, I got infantry everywhere, so I got sight on this AT gun. While he's still busy repositioning it, I can start sighting it in with my mortar. You can see the reticle growing smaller and smaller every time I fire. The first time it was huge, and I ended up killing one of my own men, but we're not going to discuss that, and that actually just creamed another one of my men. That was kind of also my fault, because I'm moving in on this mortar by hand. But or moving in this AT gun by hand, but in any case, my opponent is just spending too much time repositioning his stuff, too much time like just walking around right in the open under my sight. He doesn't know how much intelligence I have on him. He doesn't realize how badly he's sighted by my mortar. He's just not, he doesn't have the tactical advantage. Whereas in the middle, fucking Church is like, you know, Stronghold or something. He's got like 6 advantages. If he, like, it's just, that Church annoyed me, so I buy a flamethrower because I'm going to set the church on fire. That is something I can get behind even if it's not full of enemies. And there's historical precedent for this. I was reading about the Battle of Anzio a while ago, and you know, Allied, there was this awesome church on some hill or something, and the Germans were like, we hate the Jews, but we love the church, so we are not going to use it to sight for artillery, yeah, and you don't have to bomb it, yeah. And the Pope was like, fuck yeah, and the Allies were like, yeah, whatever. And then it actually comes to the Battle of Anzio, and they're sitting there like staring up at that church, and they're like, you know what, if I were German, I would be up in that church, and I would be spotting for my artillery, so let's bomb the shit out of it. How do you feel about that? And everyone was like, fuck yeah, let's bomb the shit out of it. And then basically they bombed the shit out of the church, killed some civilians, I think they killed a monk or something, and basically created a huge amount of rubble for the Fallschirmjägers to hide in, and they lasted in that rubble for like forever, because we couldn't do fuck all to them. And apparently the Germans were not using the church, but that was, you know, I don't mind. I think the Pope wasn't very happy about it either. Pope's not happy about a lot of stuff these days, probably. Well, I don't know. It depends how happy you would be if you had to defend child molesters. I don't know how happy I'd feel. So my flamethrower dude just he really messed up. I don't know why he ran to the front of that wall, but he paid for it, and he even exploded, because if they hit the fuel tank on the flamethrower, it will explode. That was a tip you could learn in my is it worth its points in cost? Is it worth its points cost in tank crew? Okay, actually, instead of talking about that, we're gonna watch this huge like infantry charge. He's losing so many men running towards me. My submachine gunners pick up most of them, but they finally get killed. So he runs towards me, and the rest of them I kill by getting out of the mortar and shooting it with the crewmen. So that's a nice tip. And then he almost makes it again, and kaboom, manages to kill it, but I will just recruit it because the mortar survived. So those were Rangers. Those guys were badasses, the reason they made it so far. Just basically running across open terrain. Rangers are not assault infantry. The United States assault infantry I call assault infantry or something, but Rangers are really fantastic, and they got some good guns. The Browning automatic rifle is what they got. That's some good stuff. So my flamethrower dude, I take a detour. I was going to burn the buildings, but I take a detour to try and catch this Lee, but unfortunately he can't quite shoot over the hill, and by the time I get it on the Lee, it's out of there. So that would have been nice, and unfortunately I've revealed my flamethrower, but that's okay. I figure I can still torch some stuff. Like I said before, flamethrower Baroness and built up areas. What was I talking about earlier? The mortar. No, before I talked about the mortar. Please remind me. Maybe it'll come to me. Was it about the flamethrower? Oh yeah. If you watch my series Worth Its Points Cost in Tank Crewman? You would learn that the flamethrower is the thing on the back explodes. So anyways, this is an awesome part. This is where I set the church on fire. Unfortunately it's stone, so it really doesn't burn very well, but the people inside burn fantastic. So, you know, win some, lose some. Mostly the people inside the church lose some. And I'm burning up all the pews anyways, so that's really the important part of a church. The soul of a church is in the pews. I don't know what he saw in that building, but he sensed danger, so he set it on fire, and I figure that guy's life is limited, so I'm just gonna set as much shit on fire as I can, and all evidence points to dead people, and that building will burn for a while, as will the building on the right, and apparently the church does burn, although not fantastically.